Hey guys, Red Pen Mining here. Hope you're doing well. Having a really great day. This video. Okay, I got a few questions from some people regarding this new Nexus S1 that has the new BM1373 ASIC chip from Bitmain. So these are the new S23 Antminer chips for Bitcoin mining. So it's the next generation Bitcoin miner in terms of the efficiency that this can achieve, which is between 13 and 14 joules per terahash or watt per hash. So a very efficient miner. But as of recently, June 20th, 2026, there is a deal right now regarding a lot of these Bitcoin miners, thanks to Helium Deploy, in which they sell this new S1 and also this new $250 NerdQX++ 6 terahash model plus the Meanwell power supply for $250. So the question is, which one is a better value to buy? Is it this $700 Nexus S1 10 terahash around 130 watt Bitcoin solo miner meant for lottery mining, for solo mining Bitcoin? Or is it better to buy maybe two NerdQX++'s 6 terahash models to get a combined hash rate of 12 terahash but use over 200 watts? And you get two Meanwell power supplies with both of those NerdQX++'s, which you could probably run both on one of these so you have an extra power supply. But I got a lot of numbers I want to go through in this video with you guys, and a lot of pros and cons. I'm just going to talk about it in this video, especially when it comes to the electrical price, right? We'll do an electrical price comparison and, you know, how many years or months would it take to essentially pay off the $200 difference from this Nexus S1 compared to two NerdQX++'s 6 terahash models on heliumdeploy.com. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty here. And before we begin, I want to give away some hash rate. So comment down below just your thoughts. Which one would you rather buy if you had a choice between the Nexus S1 or the two NerdQX++'s? Just give me your opinions down below and I will choose a winner for a 2 petahash rental for 2 hours through Brain's hash power. Alright, so just comment down below. I will choose the winner after about a day after this video is uploaded. I will reply to your comment if you have won the 2 petahash rental. Then you'll just have to email me and I need your Bitcoin address to solo mine with over 2 petahash, which is a lot. Okay, let's get into it, guys. So, which one would you rather get? Is it 2 NerdQX++'s or one Nexus S1? Okay, so there's a couple of differences here. So we have the Nexus S1 at 10 terahash, but then we have the NerdQX++ at 12 terahash because we have two of them for $500. Power consumption difference is 130 watts for the S1 versus 200 watts for the two NerdQX++'s. So it's about a 70-60 watt difference in terms of power consumption there. And we're going to really compare the electrical power consumption here, which could make all the difference depending on your electrical cost, of course, or if you had free power or solar power, then that comparison doesn't matter. But the efficiency, 13 joules per terahash on the Nexus S1, and then the NerdQX++'s, two of them both combined would be about 16 to 17 joules per terahash. Now, the cost per terahash, now this is, you know, a pretty big one, I'd have to say. So we're comparing a purchase price of $700 for the S1 versus the $500 for the two NerdQX++'s, right? So there's a $70 per terahash for the Nexus S1 for 10 terahash of Bitcoin solo hash rate, right? Versus the $41.67 per terahash for the two NerdQX++'s combined hash rate of 12 terahash. So it is definitely cheaper in per terahash to buy the NerdQX++'s in that regard. But you can see above it, right, efficiency is going to be a lot better on the Nexus S1. So which one matters to you? Well, let's just do some pros and cons here. So the Nexus S1, right, has better efficiency. So it's going to be less electricity over time if you were to compare it to the NerdQX++'s. So roughly about 20 to 25% less power per terahash than the two NerdQX++'s. Hence why the BM1373 chip is the latest gen Bitmain chip and of course its efficiency advantage. So the biggest pro of this is going to be its efficiency. Now the cons, okay, the cons for the Nexus S1 is the higher upfront cost, right, versus $500. You're going to get 2 terahash less than the two NerdQX++'s, and it's a higher cost per terahash. So it's about 68% more expensive per terahash than the two NerdQX++s, okay? So those are the cons. So what are the pros now for the two NerdQX++s? Well, 12 terahash beats 10 terahash. So it's by 20% gain more terahash than the Nexus S1. It's a better value, okay, for the $500 for 12 terahash. It's a good value, better value. Hence the $42 per terahash, better value. Redundancy, okay, so with the NerdQX++s, you actually get two of them, okay? So if one dies, you still have another 6 terahash to run on, okay? So that's kind of a pro there, if you consider that, a pro. With the Nexus S1, that means, if you have, there's only one, right? And if it dies, then you're out 10 terahash, right? If that's a big deal to you, but that's a pro, right? For the two NerdQX++s, having two of them. Now, I don't know if this is a big one for a lot of people, but the advantages for the two NerdQX++s, there's a lot of different community firmware out there, open source hardware, open source firmware. There's a lot of hardware mods, easier experimentation, I'd have to say, maybe overclocking as well. There's a huge community support for the NerdQX++s, so I think that's a pro there as well. The Nexus S1, I'm sure it will get the same thing as the NerdQX++s later in the future, but for now, since it's such a new miner, there isn't really much, new stuff for it. Now, the cons for the two NerdQX++s, so it's gonna use about 70 to 90 to 100 watts more than the Nexus S1. So that's really gonna factor in for people that pay for their electrical bill, which we're gonna really get into in the weeds here in a second. More heat, right? Two miners, there's going to be a little bit more heat. Maybe not necessarily in this case more power supplies, because you can put one Meanwell 350 watt for two NerdQX++s in my opinion. But if you're going to overclock, then I would separate and have power supplies on each one. And so let's get into the biggest thing here, is the electricity comparison between the Nexus S1 and the two NerdQX++s. So the power consumption, okay, again we talked about 130 watts for the S1, 200 watts or so for the two NerdQX++s, give or take. The daily usage in terms of kilowatt hours for the S1 is going to be about 3.12. Okay, so to do the math there, you just do 0.130 kilowatt times 24 hours, that's going to give you 3.12 kilowatt hours. Then for the NerdQX++, it's 4.8 kilowatt hours for around 200 watts. So monthly kilowatt hour usage is for the Nexus S1 is going to be 93.6 kilowatt hours. Then for the two NerdQX++s, you're going to be using 144 kilowatt hours. Yearly for the S1 will be 1,138 kilowatt hours, and then yearly for the two NerdQX++s, you're going to be using over 1,700 kilowatt hours. So that's a lot more power when you think about it that way in terms of, over a year. So the difference that we have here is 70-ish watts, give or take, plus or minus 5%. 70 watts difference, more power for the two NerdQX++s. We have about 50.4 kilowatt hours a month more than the Nexus S1 for the two NerdQX++s. Then per year, it's about 613.2 kilowatt hours more in terms of a difference between these two miners. So electricity cost comparison now. Okay, so this is where it can really, get into the weeds here of, depending on your electrical costs. So let's just say for anyone that's using these at let's say 10 cents per kilowatt hour. So daily, okay, at 10 cents per kilowatt hour, if you do the math there, it's going to cost you about only 31 cents a day to run this Nexus S1. Monthly, it'll cost $9.36 a month, okay, at 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Yearly, it will cost you $113.88 to run the Nexus S1 at 10 cents per kilowatt hour. Again, anyone with solar or free power, this all doesn't matter to you. But now, doing the comparison of the NerdQX++s at 10 cents per kilowatt hour, it'll cost you 48 cents a day to run both. Monthly, it'll cost you $14.40. Yearly, it'll cost you $175.20. So monthly there, or yearly, I mean, the difference there is about $61 a year or $5 a month compared to the two. Is that a lot? That's why I've talked about before, the efficiency, even though we're getting better efficiency, is $5 a lot to you at 10 cents per kilowatt hour? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. That's like maybe a coffee, but that's at 10 cents per kilowatt hour. But let's say we go up to 15 cents per kilowatt hour, And you can see the difference there. I'll just go straight to the difference, right? It'll be about $7.56 in terms of power consumption difference, right? A year, it'll be $98, right? $91 a year difference. So you can see how efficiency does really play the part, right? $91 difference there. At 20 cents per kilowatt hour, which I think, a lot of people could have and could be buying these, is that it's going to be a difference of $10 a month. That's like 2 coffees. And then a year, that's about $122 difference there. So, but at 20 cents per kilowatt hour, a big thing is your power consumption for the S1, it'll cost you $227 a year to run the S1, and then for the 2 NerdQX++s, it'll cost you $350 a year to run. So as you get, of course, higher in kilowatt hour pricing, you're going to be spending more money on the electricity for those that pay electricity to do crypto mining. Then I'll just show on the screen here, 25 cent and 30 cent per kilowatt hour. You can see the difference gets much higher, obviously, because your cost per kilowatt hour is much higher. And at, let's say at 30 cents per kilowatt hour, the difference there yearly is $183 difference. So efficiency at higher cost per kilowatt hour is definitely, paramount for having the more efficient miner, because you're spending less on electricity. But you are spending about, $200 more on this Nexus S1. So when does the Nexus S1 make up the $200 price difference? Well, we know the cost, right? $700 versus $500. So what's approximately, how long would it take for the electricity savings to recover that extra $200 upfront cost? Well, on the screen here, between 5 and 30 cents per kilowatt hour, depending on your electrical usage, you can see the annual savings, right? Versus, from 5 cents per kilowatt hour to 30 cents per kilowatt hour. You can see the annual saving at 5 cents per kilowatt hour is $30.66. Then 10 cents per kilowatt hour is $61.32. 15 cents per kilowatt hour, $91.98. 20 cents per kilowatt hour, $122.64. 25 cents per kilowatt hour, $153. $153. At 30 cents per kilowatt hour, it'll be $183.96. So what does that mean exactly? Well, we're comparing the two pricing, right? $700 versus $500. So it costs $200 less to provide, 20% more hash rate, and it would take more than 3 years or over 6 years at, 5 cents per kilowatt hour for the Nexus to recover its higher purchase price through the electrical savings. So if you're paying 20 to 30 cents per kilowatt hour, the Nexus S1 becomes much more attractive to you because of its efficiency is higher. But the upfront cost, it can be recovered in about 1-2 years because of that efficiency compared to the 2 NerdQX++s. So the lower essentially operating cost, right, comparing it to the two NerdQX++s, it is, a long-term advantage in that regard. But for most home miners in North America, maybe paying 10 cents to 15 cents per kilowatt hour, I think the decision really comes down to priorities. The 2 NerdQX++s, if your goal is for maximizing hash rate per dollar, that could be it. Or if you choose the Nexus S1, if you value lower power consumption, maybe a simpler setup instead of running 2, the plan to run the miner continuously for, many, many years. So guys, that's all I wanted to explain here, right? The electrical cost, if we're looking at it in that regard, we could be talking $5 to $15 a month difference. Or what matters to you the most is getting that 20% more hash rate with 2 of these, and it's about a 40% better value per dollar. You get redundancy as well, but the S1 is more efficient, so maybe people that have higher cost per kilowatt hour, this may be the better way to go just because of your higher electricity price. Okay, my friends, that's it for this video. That's all I wanted to do. If there's any, thoughts or concerns, let me know down below. But yeah, comment down below for the Brains Hash Power hash rate 2 petahash for 2 hours. Give me your thoughts down below between these two. Which one would you guys rather buy? If you guys are interested in these, link down below to heliumdeploy.com. Thanks to them. I'll see you guys in the next video. Let me know if that was informative. I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good one. Peace out. Peace out. Still storing your crypto on exchanges? That's risky. This is the Red Panda Tangem card. Simple, secure, and built for real self-custody. No seed phrases, no complicated setups. Just tap your card, manage your crypto, and you're in control instantly. Secure chip technology keeps your assets protected, even offline. I've tested a lot of hardware wallets, and this is by far one of the easiest ways to get started. If you want true ownership of your crypto, check out the Red Panda Tangem card below. Simple, secure, self-custody. Use code RPM for another 10% off. Link in the video description below.